Hey beautiful YouTubers, it's Tess. I have little Sly here, Sylvester George, and today I'm going to talk about 5 different types of dolls and my opinion on them. Okay, this is just my opinion. No need to assert, you're wrong, okay? Opinions cannot be right or wrong. They're just opinions. I'm going to cover 5 different types of dolls. Ashton Drake / Paradise Gallery, any kind of manufactured dolls. Playborns, reborns for kids. Vampire, zombie, fantasy dolls. Silicone dolls. And haunted dolls. Granted, I've only had 2 of these. I've had an Ashton Drake and I've had a zombie. I have not had a Playborn or a silicone doll or a haunted doll. Alright, so let's start with Ashton Drake and Paradise Gallery dolls. First of all, let me say, they are gorgeous. They're pretty. They're not necessarily made for cuddles, I would say. I haven't had any of the more recent ones. They might be changing that up a bit. But I remember my Tylee wasn't necessarily made for cuddling. She was kind of made for posing. And I think they have kind of a different purpose that reborns have. And they don't have that mottling, they don't have the veining, they don't really have that realism that you would see in a reborn. They might have some blushing here and there. And, but the main reason they are not reborns, yes, they are not reborns, and that's just not an opinion, that's a fact. They're not reborns because they are manufactured, they aren't one of a kind. You can buy another one. And that's what makes reborn so special, is they're one of a kind. But that's not the reason I hate when people say that they're reborn so much. The reason I hate when people say that they're reborns is because when I was first starting out learning about reborns, I heard that the doll that I got, the Sweet Dreams Bella doll, was a reborn because somebody was saying it was a reborn in a video. And I looked up like reborn sites or whatever, and they suggested Ashton Drake, and I was like, oh yay, reborns for sale. And I thought, this doll was one of a kind. Like, I thought Sweet Dreams Bella was the sculpt, and I thought this particular doll that I would be buying was one of a kind. And yeah, and I thought it was a reborn, but it wasn't, and I was expecting mottling, veining, and all that kind of stuff. I thought I just couldn't see it in the pictures or whatever, but yeah, that was a misconception influenced by people saying that Ashton Drakes are reborns, and I hate it, because I wasted a lot of money. Alright, Playborns. I think that's a great idea, great concept, because I personally hate the idea of anybody under 18 owning a reborn. And I know that's a really controversial topic because I know a lot of my viewers are under 18, but I don't like the idea. And people seem to think I'm younger than I am. I'm 20. I got into reborning when I was 18. And I think at 18, I wasn't even that mature enough to handle my doll. Like, I didn't know what I wish I would have known with handling reborns. I don't know, I would never buy my kid a reborn. It's a huge investment. It's something that I think needs to be, there's a lot of maturity needed to have a reborn. But a lot of kids take great care of them too. So maybe the idea of Playborns we're getting somewhere, and I would rather a kid have a Playborn than a real reborn. And like, I saw like one girl, her mom got her like a prototype, and I was like, are you serious? I mean, I guess if you can afford it, sure, but this is a one-of-a-kind doll, and you need to make sure the owner of this doll has the maturity and experience with reborns to take care of it and, do the artist justice by taking care of that doll and making it last for as long as it's supposed to last. Okay, that's kind of controversial. And please, no hate in the comments. These are just opinions. Please make, by the way, this is a tag video, so like, whoever wants to make a video of this, please do it. And add some extra dolls into the mix if you want. But I think these are the main different types of dolls. Alright, now as for vampire, zombie, and fantasy dolls, I think they're so cool. I love my zombie doll. I love the idea of the zombie apocalypse. Obviously, fantasy-wise, I wouldn't want the world to crumble. But I like the video games and the movies and the TV shows associated with the zombie apocalypse, and the analyzation of just the human the human condition in its essence, and what would you do in this situation. I think it's really cool to imagine, you know, if all was lost, and it's kind of almost fun to think, you know, what if the government crumbles? What if there were no laws anymore, and all we had to rely on was ourselves? And it's interesting to think of. And you know, there's no men, women, children anymore. There's just survivors, the infected and the non-infected. And I think that's really cool. And it brings out a lot of great characters in all the TV shows and stuff that you see. As for vampire dolls, I think they're really cool too. I think they really complete certain sculpts. Shanine Gleason of Twisted Beanstalk Nursery recently made a Charlemagne with the fangs, and I was like, oh my god, I think that's what the Charlemagne was missing. Every time I looked at the Charlemagne, I was just like, I don't know, I don't really like it that much. But it was missing fangs. Fridolin sculpt too. She did the Fridolin by Carola Wegerich. And I think that sculpt was definitely missing fangs, and then she completed it. Other fantasy dolls, elves, Olga Auer just made a really, really cute elf, and she recently made a status like asking other people to post their fantasy work because she was looking for a prototype artist for Ophelia, the elf kit. And like I saw some really, really cool ones, like somebody had made like a Pinocchio, and I just thought that was really cool, and you have to have a lot of creativity to do that. And some of them you gotta use a lot of freaking paint. But, I mean, imagining getting a kit blue. I've seen an Avatar baby. Oh my goodness. So much work, but so fun, too. And I love the use of color, specifically in Twisted Beanstalk Nursery's dolls. Alright, silicone dolls. Long story short, I think money-wise and durability-wise, they wouldn't be worth it for me, personally. I wouldn't be able to spend that much money on a doll and still be able to bond with it. I would just be focusing on like, oh, I paid so much for you, I don't want to touch you. And I know I'm like that because I know I'm like that with rooted hair babies. You know, if my babies have any kind of delicate factor, like really, really delicate, I hold these babies like real babies, but at the same time I like them to look perfect too. I don't like their hair to be messy. I don't like them to, you know, have, for instance, silicone dolls sometimes get like, they get shiny really easily, and I'm just, you know, I like my babies to almost always look fairly perfect, even though normal babies aren't. I understand that. That's just too much work for me. I wouldn't be able to bond with a silicone, nor would I ever spend that much money on one. Shoot me if I do. Alright, haunted dolls. Now, this is a little bit more controversial because not a lot of people believe in ghosts. I'm an atheist, so that means I have no religion. I don't believe in any kind of higher power, anything like that. And I don't believe in ghosts. But I do think it is super cool. Like, I think that's a fascinating topic. I hope, like, I don't believe in ghosts, but I hope that they're real at the same time. And, you know, I love ghost movies. I love Paranormal Activity, even if, like, everybody's like, oh, it's crappy, you shouldn't see it. I'm like, I'm gonna see it. And all those ghost movies, I think they're so cool. And it might just be me as a horror fanatic. But I've never seen a haunted doll, but I have a hard time believing that, you know, those dolls are actually haunted. Now, if enough evidence were to present itself in the scientific community for them to say, hey guys, ghosts exist, that's hard to say, and here's why, then I could definitely change my opinion. That's the great thing about kind of being a blank slate. None of my opinions are based on faith, which is kind of, you know, it sounds sad to some people, but it's realism for me. And if it were to be proven in some way, then I would definitely change my opinion. And that's kind of a misconception people have about atheists, that, you know, we're just closed-minded and we don't believe in anything. But no, if enough evidence were to present itself, then definitely. But yeah, so those are my opinions. And I would never get a haunted doll. Unless it was like a really pretty reborn that I really wanted that just happened to be haunted. And I just, you know, I don't believe they exist. I think people, you know, like to enjoy that they exist. Or like to enjoy the idea that they exist. I don't think I would change my opinion if evidence presented itself to me personally. Like, if I were to see a ghost, I would say, oh, I'm crazy. I wouldn't Alright, this sounds really bad, but, you know, I would think, you know, okay, I need to find out why I'm seeing something like this, instead of, you know, saying, oh, I know ghosts exist now. I would need some kind of proof. But it's weird. I do believe there's these people called the twin psychics. I do believe that, you know, some people can see things that aren't there, or understand things that might not have any logical explanation. There are thousands of things in this world that people can't explain. And, yeah, I don't have any firm belief in them now, but who knows what we'll find out in the next decade or 2 decades or century, whatever. So yeah, I kind of went away from the doll topic, but I thought that was something that I wanted to share my opinion on. So, here's the tag. Here, let me tag 3 people. Okay, so the people I tag: Avery, back down south. Avery is Avery Cordelia, back down south. And who am I going to tag? Who am I going to tag? Who am I going to tag? Avery, back down south. Who else likes to talk? Stephanie, if you have time. In Love with Reborns 2011. Those are the 3 people I tag. Alright, love you guys. Bye.